Well, we're here again. But there's been a demand, Brian. People are demanding that I have you back
Mm.
because they want to see how many ornaments you have on the tree.
It's getting to the point of maximum weight. It's it's not structurally sound, Randy. This is not a load-bearing artificial lemon tree.
I had heard you were, however, going to electrify it and you were going to have it brightly shining with lights and things. You've
It
bought
will happen. I've got the lights.
the mini lights are in place. All right. Well, listen, there's been a few people on the internet, some folks on X, etc., who've been talking a little bit about this thing. It's a Cybertruck or some such thing. I don't know. Have you heard about it?
I've heard about it, but I don't really follow trucks. I'm not a truck guy.
Truck. And so I feel like it's a fire hose of information. It's like, every day, I haven't even had time this morning to see what Sandy Monroe and the four executives were saying on that show. I watched like 4 minutes of it, but ran out of time because we had to do this show. Have you had a chance to listen to that one at all?
No, I'm doing. It looks like I'm going to be doing a deep dive with it
Okay.
on it later today with Hans Hans Nelson. So that's going to be interesting.
All right. Well, even though we've had this fire hose of information, there's just never enough. I am completely, curious about so many things. It's like, come on, couldn't there just be a place where we could say, Elon, here's our 5 questions for the day, and he or others could just answer them. Anyway, I want to start with this one with you, Brian, today. The sharp edges on the Cybertruck seems to be something that has got everybody excited that they're going to rip sweaters, destroy small children, potentially impale cats. What is this really going to be an issue going forward?
No. So when I worked in metal fabrication, my job was sanding and deburring. And deburring is taking the edges. So we'd get like a little, let's say a piece of metal that looked like this. And my job was to put it on the wheel and just take the edges off. And it's very quick. It's very easy. It's very understood and known. Now with stainless, it's a bigger pain because stainless doesn't like to change shapes. And we never worked with anything of this. We didn't work with stainless this thick or this tough.
Yes.
So it's more work, but it's still very easy to understand to give it smooth edges that you can run your hands along without getting scratched or poked. And everyone said in the videos, in the reviews, these were not the production trucks. These were the test beds, the release candidates, but not the actual release vehicles. I am confident you will not cut yourself on a Cybertruck.
So I can relax about that one.
You can relax about that one. There are other issues that have been raised, which is just the angles of it.
Right.
One person pointed out if a little kid runs his bike into the back corner of your Cybertruck, he's going to have a line of pressure rather than a surface of pressure.
Yeah.
And, that's not ideal, but I'm not sure. We'll see more about that.
Sign. I think they just need to put a sign. Children, do not run your head into the portion of the truck.
Because kids famously adhere to all safety signs. So I think that's a foolproof system. But you know what the problem with any foolproof system is, Randy? They just make better fools.
Yes, they do. Yes, it encourages people to be as foolish as possible. This has been clearly evident in the last week or so. All right, so the number 2 question that is just driving me nuts is the actual shipment of I want to know how many they're going to make next year, but really I'm very curious about how many they're making now. I haven't seen anything from Joe. I haven't seen anything in terms of these people that have filled out their forms actually saying I got mine. Now we've got 2 more weeks before the end of the year, but or even a little more than 2 weeks, 3 weeks actually. What do you hear? What do you think? How are these being made right now? Are they going out the factory door?
So it is they are being made. They are going out the factory door, but it is entirely possible that they will take all these orders and send them to all the delivery centers, but not actually hand them over until January 1st, because as soon as you begin actual customer deliveries is when you begin amortizing the cost of the line. And they may wish to push that out to next quarter to make the financials look better. That's what they did in Shanghai. They had 1,000 cars sitting on the lot waiting for January 1st. They did some internal deliveries in December,
Right.
but real delivery started in January. And as I understand, I could be mistaken, that was to shift when the amortization of the cost of the equipment was officially going into service.
Yeah, now that's been a subject that's been bandied around on the internet, and some executive at Tesla, I forget, his EM initials seems to ring a
Doesn't
bell.
ring any bells.
Said that there was that was just not going to happen. They were going to ship away. Do you think maybe he got his hand slapped later by somebody in bookkeeping?
No, I mean, they are being shipped, just not transferred. And we don't know. The people who took delivery on day one, if we can call it that, at the delivery event, looked like ordinary Joes. But from what I've heard, they were not. They were friends and family. They were people. And it is entirely possible that those are, not entitled to their names yet. But I do not know how you code something like that, because it's such a ephemeral sort of thing where it matters so little and only at the beginning that it's never been a big topic of discussion.
All right.
It's the sort of thing you look back on a year later and say, who cares?
Yes, of course. I know, but it's exciting now. I'm sorry.
Exciting.
So now there is this new Model 3 called the Model 3 Plus. You know how anxious I've been to have it be made in the United States. And there was tremendous amounts of, speculation that this would happen in January by all the regular folks. Any word, any thought? Do you think we'll be seeing them anytime soon?
What we haven't seen is a drop in Model 3 production in Fremont yet. When we see the Model 3s stop being built in Fremont, is when we can rest assured that the line is being converted. Normally, you'll get rumors out of Fremont that'll bubble up on channels like X accounts like Troy, Teslike, or Sawyer Merritt, more likely. Sawyer has good sources, and we haven't heard it yet. And it's awfully late in December already, with the holidays coming up, unless they're planning a holiday changeover, which they could. They planned a holiday changeover for the Model S when they went to refresh that. And as we know, that only took, well, it was supposed to take 2 weeks, but 6 months. So
yeah, right.
7 months. So it'll change over quicker this time because it must. It must. And also, I don't think the Plaid was quite ready for prime time when they forced the switch. So I don't know what's going to happen there. But I have not heard anything yet that would indicate that the Model 3 Fresh is imminent. I did see a very silly comment on social media yesterday saying, well, the Highland refresh was a flop. It was a commercial flop. And how? Well, because sales haven't gone up. And I'm like, right. There's only one factory making it, and that factory is running at capacity. There's no higher number. They will go a little higher because of apparent production streamline improvements, but you're not going to see a big jump right out of the gate. And cars are refreshed and remade all the time. They always come out with the new model year of cars, which are slightly different, without expecting a huge jump in sales. Oh, wow, look at how many more Accords we're selling this year because we made some great changes to whatever, styling, efficiency, you name it.
Right.
That doesn't make something a commercial flop. It is a commercial success because we believe it's cheaper to make while being sold at a higher price, or at least a higher margin. And it's winning awards. It's, by all accounts, substantial improvement over the previous version.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, now Road and Track, who always gets it right, they had this headline last week that the Juniper is like next year. They didn't actually give a date. They just said, we believe, but that's not kind of how the headline went. The headline made you think that they had inside information or that there was really something going on that they knew about. But then inside it was kind of like, well, I was talking to Randy, and Randy believes it, so we believe it. So
the first thing
they said the Juniper is coming soon. What do you say?
The first thing to remember with a big publication like that is the person who writes the article is seldom the one who writes the headline. The headline is usually written by someone with a very different skill set getting eyeballs on the actual article. So a lot of times you'll see a headline that's very detached from what's inside of it. And sometimes that has very bad impacts for the person who wrote the article. Not to be political, this isn't a political one, but there was a headline. Mitt Romney, when he was running for president, had written a editorial for, I forget, the Wall Street Journal about the case for the bailouts for the auto companies, and the editor added the headline, "Let them go broke," or "Let them go bankrupt," or something like that. And Mitt Romney had to defend that. It wasn't his headline. That's not, if you read the article, it's very nuanced, but nuance doesn't fit in a headline. So I'm not saying Road and Track is being dishonest. I don't think they are. Yeah. If you read the article, which I haven't, I imagine it includes the nuance that you were suggesting, saying it could happen. Here's some reasons it will happen, and we're not sure when. All of that is true. But the big thing to remember is, let's say they have an inside line, and that inside line says, I know for a fact it's going to be Q2. Mm-hmm. That's subject to change.
Yeah.
That person could have been told that by Tesla executives yesterday, only for it to later not be true. Mm-hmm. And we've seen that with a lot of things. I've seen people who said, I know a guy who worked there 3 years ago who said, and I'm going to stop you right there. That's ancient history. That is not how that ignores the speed of Tesla.
Yeah.
And the original plan was that Texas was going to be built just for the Cybertruck, but when they saw the demand for Model Y was bigger than even their grand ambitions, they said, we're changing gears. We're just going to build a cajillion Ys because we know how to build them. For us, it's easy, and we know how to make money off them, and we know the market exists. We know it's there. This is a known thing. We're just going to do that. And so that the people who knew for sure, there were reports saying, I know people who work at Tesla who've been told, move to Texas to work on the Cybertruck line in July of 21. I don't believe that those reports were fabricated entirely. They could have been, but it fit with what we knew in July of 21. It's just that the plans changed.
All right. So Gary Black shocked me the other day. Shocked me. I mean, Gary Black's so conservative, and his numbers are lower than mine. I mean, he really blew me away the other day. He says he believes, and I take him at his word, that there will be a simultaneous launch of the Gen 3 vehicle in Austin, Berlin, and Shanghai. Didn't mention Mexico at all, wasn't on the list, just those three. Q4 of this coming year, 2024. Q4, all three simultaneously launched. And you say?
That's very soon. That's very soon. I could see it coming out of Texas. Texas is a machine built for spooling up. Shanghai, if they haven't already broken ground, they could absolutely create a new factory and push out a car in about a year. We saw them do it with the Model 3, though that was mostly with knockdown parts from Fremont and elsewhere. But within months, it was all locally sourced. We saw them do it with Model Y, which was a whole new factory, much bigger, and they still got to production in a year. And Shanghai could have already broken ground somewhere that we don't know about, somewhere nearby that they just were wise enough to leave the Tesla logos off all the signs for once. So it's possible. But Berlin to break ground, complete a factory, and get it running in the next 12 months and 2 weeks strains credulity.
Now,
I don't think that's a realistic expectation.
What about extra space there now? Because they were going to do 500, they're going to do 500,000 wise, and they're doing 250. Would they potentially have space that they have not built out yet, that they could build the Gen 3 car in?
They have space. I don't think they would use it. I think they want space that's custom configured. And when we saw the preliminary permits, which have been approved, the preliminary site plans for the expansion, there is dedicated space at the north end of the site in the big clearing that they've got there for the compact model, for a future compact model.
Right.
There is space already allocated. So I don't think they would want to build a line inside the existing factory, which would not be optimized for whatever it is they're doing, only to have to move it. Now, Tesla's very good at using space that wasn't intended for that purpose. You can see it with all the sprung structures in Fremont, but I'm not sure that that's what they would want to do, because on a compact model, if you're going to add even 50 or 100 or $500 in complication to the line, it adds up in a hurry when you're talking about millions of units.
All right. So Gary Black's idea, of course, if he's correct, would blow minds. I mean, that would that would change. If that news was announced as official sometime later this year, that would certainly fit within Gary's catalyst list.
I would say there's a big reason we won't see a simultaneous launch, and that is that there are always kinks to work out of a new production line, and it would be crazy to have to work them out in 3 different places at the same time. For that reason alone, I think it's a beautiful idea, but impractical, and I think that it would be pretty painful to try and introduce that level of coordination. And I think the cost would also be prohibitive. Not that Tesla has, as you know, tens of billions cash on hand, but to tie up 2 to 4 billion in 3 different places at the same time, that would be too close to getting us back to betting the farm days. And I just don't see it. I also think end of 24 is too ambitious. I think mid 25 is the earliest we would see the compact rolling out.
Of anywhere.
And I think they've got their hands full ramping. See, there's teams. And now that the people who engineered the lines for the production of the Cybertruck are now basically free to go and work on something else. Now, of course, they can be used to streamline it, but the team that streamlines is the one that's working now. And the team that does the designing is, I am confident, has moved on to the compact. But there is still a lot of headspace being consumed by the ramp of the they have a truck. I don't know if we've ever mentioned that, but they have a new truck, Randy. So I don't remember if we mentioned that before or throughout today, but
somewhere
they do.
Somewhere it's come up. It's come up. Yes. All right. I think that covers I do have more questions, but I think those were the ones that were really bothering me today. So I think we'll leave it there. You will be back. You'll be back in 3 minutes to do tomorrow's show, but everybody will have to wait until tomorrow to actually hear what we're going to talk about in 3 minutes.
People don't understand what it's like being a time traveler, Randy. I tell them, but they just don't believe me. I'm like, but you remember seeing me in the past, right? And I'm here now. Never mind.
So it must be time travel. How else could you explain it?
How else?
Yes. Yes. All right. Well, thank you, Brian, as always, for coming on and informing the folks in my audience. Don't forget, he has an audience too. It's called MyTeslaWeekend. He's everywhere. MyTeslaWeekend, Patreon, a YouTube channel, X, all of these places. Follow him because he's fun to be around. He's good to hang with. Brian, as always. And to all of you out there, it's been great talking to you. Oh.